It's now time for Total Health right here on Joy FM Radio, where your questions get answered by health professionals. If you have any health-related questions, we would love to hear from you. Call your questions and comments in at 472-1111 or text or WhatsApp 686-9999. If you're in the CNMI, please call 323-1113. Welcome everybody to Total Health.
Welcome. Welcome and hello to our listeners. We have Dr. William O with us today. We have the pleasure as Guam SDA Clinic to have an orthopedic surgeon that we have been looking for many, many years. We are so proud of Dr. O. He came and kind of boosted up our urgent care and started helping patients that we weren't able to help before. And everybody agreed with me that it will be such a great privilege for us to have Dr. O in our radio show today. Hello, Dr. O.
Hello.
It is so wonderful to have you here. And for those of us that know you very, very well, I would say, we know that you have a great sense of humor. And I want to share that sense of humor with our precious and beloved friends in Guam. Dr. O, you have a great experience. Maybe we wouldn't even have time to talk about what you have done, where you have been, what type of procedures you have done. But we would like to know you more because, not only doctors prefer what type of patient they can see, also patients would like to know the background of their doctors. And as we are opening our services more, we are more able to help more and more people in our clinic, thankfully to the services you provide. We would like to know more about Dr. O. What is Dr. O like?
Well, before I say what I'm like, I'd like this opportunity to give glory and credit to Jesus Christ, my best friend.
Amen.
And without his grace, I wouldn't be here. So I think it's more important for me to be able to introduce my best friend, Jesus, to the people of this island and other islands than myself, because not knowing too much about me would not hurt anybody. But if you don't learn about Jesus Christ, you can lose out so much. So I hope I can talk about my friend Jesus more than myself, but I'll be happy to share some of my past experience, mainly to introduce why I'm here and
yes, please.
what
like
I
to
hope
know.
to accomplish.
Of course.
So I've been in Guam Island several times in the past. I was first introduced by the U.S. Navy. I was serving as a medical officer for the U.S. Navy. And I got a message one day saying that we need someone to volunteer to go help out in a Navy hospital in Guam. And my first question is, where's Guam? I never heard of Guam. So I quickly looked up on the map, and I only saw a little tiny dot. And I said, wow, how could we have a hospital there? And so without asking too many questions, I decided to volunteer. I've always been a person who sought out adventures, and I said, I'll go try there. So I came, and sure enough, only a few days after I got here, there was one major disaster. Big airplane crashed not too far from where I landed. And that kind of introduced me to the island and what resources you have available and what so many people depend on. Few those resources you have in terms of emergency care or day-to-day medical care. So since that time, I've volunteered to come back here at least 4 different occasions, and just mainly to fill in for younger colleagues who had to take a break from here to go back to their home. And during those trips, I learned about Seventh-day Adventist Clinic. So I visited a few times as I was very impressed by the operation and the kind of mission they're carrying out to serve the people on the island. So I said someday I will come back to support the clinic and what his clinic is trying to do.
Which year has been that?
Yeah,
Do you remember?
But I didn't know whether I'll have an opportunity or not, because after I got out of the Navy, I began my civilian practice, and I just never thought it'll work out. But not too long ago, I decided to close my private practice and start enjoying my retirement. And that's when I heard that there was a critical need again at Guam STA clinic. So I said, I'll come if the Lord opens the door so that I can get license and all the necessary paperwork. And I was very surprised that everything worked out in spite of my age. I was able to get the license, and I was able to get approved by other insurances. So I decided to come. And interesting thing is that when I agreed to come, the clinic said, we'll help you to get here. And I thought that meant that tickets to come and tickets to go back. So I just automatically assumed it until a few days before I actually left my home in California. One of my daughters who lived close to our house in California said, Dad, did you know that you have a one-way ticket? I said, no, I didn't know that. That's how my adventure started. So my wife and I, by the way, I've been married to my wife for the last 49 years.
Wow.
We're going to have our 50th anniversary very soon.
Oh,
and
we're
she
invited,
followed me around everywhere. When I was in the Navy, she followed me to Japan and Italy and England and Germany and Korea and all those different places. So she's used to coming with me with a very short notice. So she's here supporting our mission, and she's very happy to be here, and I'm happy to be here. And even though we had a rough experience with a typhoon just a few weeks ago, we feel like we're where God wants me to be and God wants my family to be. And I'm hoping to be of some service in the coming weeks and the coming months.
Dr. O, thank you so much for this introduction. It is wonderful for us to get to know you more. And we really appreciate your willing heart to come. And certainly, not only patients benefit, but we as providers also come quite often to your room, knock on the door and say, Dr. O, we need you. We need you for that and that reason. And during the hurricane, the typhoon, you have been quite instrumental for our people in Guam. And we're very, very grateful for that. And I hope we can hear more about your sense of humor, because it's just lovely talking to you. It has been a joy for all of us working hand in hand with you, and sometimes doing procedures we never thought that we are able to do that in ambulatory setting. But I am very pleased for our patients that they can have one more orthopedic surgeon in Guam that can take care of their needs. Before that, we had waiting times. We still have long waiting times, but at least we kind of help a little bit to shorten that waiting time. And since we have you here, please, we would like you to share things from your experience. So far, you have several months of practice in Guam. What are some things and considerations you would like in general to suggest to our patients? Sometimes our patients come too late, Dr. O. Do you agree with me? Sometimes they go to different specialists until they end up to you. If I'm a patient and I have a knee pain or I have a back pain, what would your be first, advices to us? We usually send to you as an end stage option. We always send to the surgeon as when nothing else works. But you being as a surgeon, what would you advise us that we will not get to the point that we will need you? And of course, we will need you sooner or later. But what advices would you give us how we can take care of ourselves and mainly for our bones?
My approach to serve as an orthopedic surgeon is a little different than a typical orthopedic surgeon people have known. I'm not really keen about taking care of the immediate problems patients face, even though while I was serving in the military, I was trained. In fact, I spent more than half of my military time training other doctors and corpsmen to be a better manager of the disasters and emergencies. But my philosophy of providing medical care is similar to what our great teacher, Jesus Christ, did when he was on earth. I like to get to the root of the problem, what caused, and I believe in preventing the problem more than treating the end result, because we simply don't have enough resources. We don't have enough orthopedic surgeons or physicians, not only in Guam, but looking at the whole world, just to take care of the problems. So we have to stand back and look at different way of solving a crisis of people suffering or people having pain or having less than good quality of life. So I look for what's causing the problem, and if I can help people to avoid having to use my service as a surgeon, then I feel much more satisfied and fulfilled. I call that upstream medicine. That means we look for what's causing way back before it gets to the crisis point where something has to be done right away. So to answer your question about what I have observed in Guam, Guam has a unique beauty, but also has a unique problem in the sense that we are living in a small geographical area, so the option of exercise is a little less than people live in a big, wide open place. And also our nutritional resource is somewhat limited because of the kind of weather and frequent storms and typhoons that people have experienced in this island. And also we don't have the greatest agricultural type of resources. Because of that, I found out that general population is suffering from the less than good nutritional resources. And that has a lot to do with the many problems I see as an orthopedic surgeon, because my specialty is help dealing with suffering or problems related to bones and joints. Many of those problems are related to how much stress we put in. In other words, how much weight we have to support. And that's the reason why I'm very, very concerned how we can help people to prevent the kind of problems they end up facing.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We're gonna go in a short break and we'll return after the ads. And thank you, that was so valuable, and we'll continue with more advices just right after the break.
The impact of Joy FM.
And obviously supporting Christian radio is huge, because as people scan through the dials, I think people are looking for hope, and they rarely know that that's what they're actually after. And there is so much hope that is in Christian music. I mean, we're talking about finding Christ and the love that He has for us.
We're changing lives every day, thanks to your support of Joy FM.
Really part of my upbringing, to be honest. It was a lot of my development in my Christian faith was hearing these songs and being challenged and encouraged.
Si Joe is Mossy, and thanks for listening to Total Health on Joy FM. We want to hear from you. Call in with your health-related questions at 472-1111 in Guam or in the Sinamai. The number to call is 323-1113. Text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. And now, back to the show.
Well, we are back with Dr. William O. Dr. William O is our orthopedic surgeon at the SDA clinic, and we're kind of sitting here at your feet waiting for a little bit more wisdom coming from your long years of experience, Dr. O. So yes, you're right. We kind of have a little bit of more limited resources, and we felt that especially now after the typhoon, some of us, we're still struggling, no water, no electricity, a lot of heat, some infectious diseases creeping up. It hasn't been easy for the whole island. And I also know that our urgent care was open and we were able to handle a lot of casualties. So we would like to know, Dr. O, as you're saying, you're into prevention. But wait a bit. Can you prevent my knee pain before my knee pain starts? How can I know to prevent my aches in my body before even starts complaining? What do you mean by you invest and you emphasize on prevention as an orthopedic surgeon?
Thank you for asking me about that specific area of the knee problem, which seems to be very common here in Guam. I've practiced orthopedics in 12 different states in USA, plus several different countries. But I'm still impressed by how prevalent knee problem is in Guam.
Oh.
I think it has to do with the basic problem of many people carrying excess weight and not enough of proper exercises. Even though I see people running and walking quite frequently around the beach, but many other places, people prefer to drive cars. Many cars, traffic jams, which is difficult for me to understand. Coming from large city like Los Angeles, I expect that because there people have to drive 50, 60 miles to get to work or to go any place they need to go. But here, we're living in a small island, and everybody prefers to drive rather than walk. So I think that has a lot to do with the prevalence of obesity in the island. So when I say I like to help with preventing knee problem, by the time people come to see me with knee joints that are already deformed means losing proper balance, because the knee joint is made to bear our body weight in a proper angle. And when we start losing cartilage that separates the bones and provides a smooth gliding surface, or if we let our muscles become weak and out of balance, then we have a difficulty protecting the knee joint. And often people allow their joint to go beyond the point of any sort of repair. So only options left will be either receiving a cortisone injection, we call it steroid injection, which has some benefits but probably more harmful effect, or the surgery. And even though I have done several thousands of knee surgeries, but I believe it's best to avoid having to have someone cut into our knees and either take things out or bring something in, which God never intended. So I like to help people to understand the cause of their knee problem more than talking about what's going on, and hopefully we can stop from getting worse, and at the same time hope the other members of the family, so that we don't repeat the same kind of problem with the other people that may know our struggle. So that's one approach I take in preventing the knee problems.
I always find it so unfair that the only solution, or maybe like the first solution to helping our knees is to lose weight. But how can you lose your weight when your knees are hurting? And so I have many patients that are like, I can't do anything. So I become very, innovative, advising them how they can swim, they can do exercises that they can lose the weight without putting, emphasis on their knees or just moving upper part bodies. Do you have any advices better that I can give my patients, and how we can help those that already have so painful knees that they just wonder how they're going to lose their weight?
Very good question. It is sad that sometimes we get ourselves in a corner, or you might say we lose options. When we come to the point where we can no longer exercise, then we are losing at least one good option. So even though it may seem too late, but I think it's important for us to understand that we have to start thinking about this before we get ourselves completely in the corner. But there are situations where we do not recognize our problem until we lose the option of exercising. That's when I try to direct my attention to why we gain weight. Because so many people understand, we have understood that for years, that our weight depends on what we take in terms of what we eat, or what kind of food, or how much, or when to eat, and how much calories we burn in terms of exercise or just activity. Now, there have been a total misunderstanding for many years that you can casually eat whatever you want to, whenever you want to, how much you want, as long as you exercise to burn the calories. But that has proven to be totally unwise and misguided. Why I say that? It's because you have to walk or run so much, almost all day long, to burn up the amount of calories we usually put in. It's obvious mathematics that we take in way too much calorie, more than we can burn up by exercising alone. So it's much more important, even after we have already developed severe damage to the joint. We have to start out by modifying our diet. And many people, when they come to see me, they somehow get disappointed first when I start talking about diet, because they want some more
Pain relief, right?
easier or a mechanical solution, what kind of bone I can cut out or what kind of a device I can put in. But to me, that's probably not a good approach in long term, because the things that we human try to put in or take out are pretty much limited in terms of efficacy or duration. It may work for a few months, few years, sometimes only a few days. But long run, we have to face the underlying cause, and that's when I can help the most. So, yes, we find ourselves sometimes we need to exercise, but we can no longer exercise because of the pain or limited mobility. I think the best place to start is that it's never too late to think about what we put in. And as we put less calories into our body, then more options will show up by which we can exercise more. And that's when I think many physicians, trained people, especially orthopedic surgeons, can be of a great help. We can help we work along with many other professionals like physical therapists, chiropractors, athletic trainers, people like that can help our patients to be able to exercise in spite of or along with the pain, and we can find ways to make it possible to exercise. Let me give an example. I saw a patient today who said a common complaint. I need to exercise, but I hurt too much to exercise. Then I look at her and I say, have you tried using a cane? Oh, I have a cane, but I don't like to use it. So my answer to that patient is, just try it for a few days. Take a cane, use a cane to walk, and you'll find out that you'll have a less pain. And if that makes it possible for you to walk more often or longer distance, then that's a good beginning. So that's kind of a advice that I feel very, very important that I give to the patients who tell me they're hurting too much to exercise.
Well, as you know, before we switch to like what foods we can eat really to help our pains and how we can decrease the inflammation in our body so we don't experience those aches as often, I would like to bring you on the other side. You know, knee pain is not, you agree with me, it's not only because of obesity, it also can be because of too much exercise. And we do have many athletes in Guam, we do have triathlon organizations that on a regular basis, they try to make sure that people are getting fitter. We have options, you know, shorter distances, less effort than what we would maybe have in the mainland. So we do have options to stimulate people to exercise. But many of us, we start exercising, we go too strong. I'm one of those, and I'm your patient too, HIPAA disclosure. But, you know, we exercise too much, and then we get hurt, and then we can't exercise the way we want. Knee pain also can be because of too much running. Or like, what advices do you have to those of us that are really trying very hard to stay fit, Dr. O?
The best and short advice I can give is the one word called moderation. Okay. Moderation means we have to use our God-given common sense. We sometimes try to do things for different reasons. Sometimes we take a certain pride in doing things better or longer or further than somebody else. And that can be a good attitude when we are professional athletes or if we are competing for a certain goal. But for an average person like myself, it's better to think of moderation. That means to do the kind of exercise that causes more benefit than harm. So we have to always consider the pluses and minuses. One of the the second rule, other than moderation, is think about activity that causes pain. Even though many unwise people have said, if it doesn't hurt, it doesn't do any good. Pains are good. I strongly disagree. I've lived over 70 years, and I found out that our body is much wiser than we think we are. When the body hurts, that's the body's way of telling us that we are doing something which is more harmful. So we need to think about that. That's the second rule that I try to advise my patients. And the third rule is that when it hurts, trying to get a proper help soon rather than too late. If you follow those three simple principles, then you can find ways to find the proper help before it's too late.
Oh, Dr. O, I was thinking no pain, no gain, but we're going to deal with that, dilemma right after the break. Meanwhile, if you do have any questions, we have an orthopedic surgeon right here in the studio. Feel free to call us with any questions you might have. And, we do have a question. Okay, so we're going to address it right after the break. Thank you.
Everything seems so vivid in the fall. It's a visible transition from warm to cool, from vacations to school, and back to routine. The constancy of the seasons is a reminder that certain things will always be there. Just like Joy FM, we're always here to encourage, inspire, and enrich lives, thanks to your support in all seasons. Visit joy92.net and consider making us part of your fall routine.
Welcome back. You're listening to Total Health on Joy FM. Call in with your health-related questions to 472-1111 in Guam. If you live in the CNMI, we want to hear from you too. Call 323-1113 or text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. And now, here's more Total Health.
Well, we are back. We are back again with Dr. William O., our orthopedic surgeon, and we are willing to accept more wisdom, Dr. O, from all the experiences you have accumulated through all the years. So we were talking about something that really hurt me, when you said, I don't agree that you have to go through pain in order to get stronger and better and healthier. And now I have to, reconsider many things. But you are notorious with that. Every time I think something is good, you come and you change my perspective. So I am grateful for that indeed. And I believe our patients as well. But we did get a question before the break. And of course, we don't know much about the details. But Dr. O, what's the popping sound in my knees?
Popping sound in knee. I'm so thankful that whoever called that question in did that, because I'm sure many people think about that and wonder what makes it pop. There's no one good answer, one consistent answer for every situation, but most common cause of popping sensation, especially if it is coming from the front part of your knee, like that is behind the kneecap. That's caused by uneven contact surfaces between the kneecap and the end of the thigh bone, which we call femur. And there's a contact surface almost like a little groove and a smaller bone, which is we call it patella or a kneecap, that glides over. Now, both patella and the femur, the thigh bone and the kneecap, are covered with a marvelous structure called the articular cartilage. That's a little different than the many people think of when they say cartilage, because there's another type of cartilage, which we in the medical world call it meniscus. That's a more of a cartilage that separates the two different bones and allow smooth movement and protection and many other roles. But this articular cartilage, which is a coating of the bone, is similar to the Teflon coating or different coating that we find on our frying pans or other cooking tools. It protects the underlying bone so that when we slide two bones against each other, we do not grind the bone. Now, sometimes through a minor accident or a little injury, or sometimes doing too much exercise, wrong type of exercise, and we can damage those cartilage, articular cartilage. Let me give an example. Some young people who play football, they try to develop strength and agility in their legs by running up and down steps, which is very helpful in developing strength. But frequent bending and straightening out the knee can wear out the articular cartilage prematurely or unevenly. Then you end up with a surface of the bones not smooth. It becomes like a cobblestone, or it becomes like a Almond Joy candy bar. There's a bunch of bumps in them. So that when those two bumps come in contact with each other, with the strong thigh muscles pulling on it, then it'll cause a popping sensation. So that's the most common cause. And another cause of the popping sensation is actually tear or displacement or abnormal movement of the second type of cartilage, which I already referred to as a meniscus, that's a lot more serious condition. If that happens, that's usually more painful and usually accompanied by a lot of swelling, and that kind of problem needs to be addressed by an orthopedic surgeon or who's qualified to take care of that kind of problem. But more common problem with the first type, which I mentioned, is something that can be very easily managed by any providers of medical care. So that can be prevented many different ways. I wish you had more time to go into it, but there are many resources that's available we can share with you.
You know, I'm going to speak up for that listener, that code. Then we kind of know the causes. We think we understood what you said with all the cartilages, but how severe a popping sound can be? Is it a sign of something serious, or is it a sign that something is going on, but it's going to go away on its own?
Well, there's no direct correlation between how loud the popping sound is and how serious the problem is. Okay. So it all depends on, in a practical sense, it depends on how much pain it causes or how disabling that is. If a popping sound is making it difficult for a person to continue walking or doing things important, then it can be serious. If a popping sensation does not interfere with your walking or exercising, then it's less significant, no matter how loud it may be. I think the most important part is that if the popping sensation persists, that is, if you notice more than several days or weeks, then it's best to have someone to examine you to make sure that we're not overlooking something that can be more serious.
All right. Okay. You're right. Of course, anything that it's unusual with our body, we need to take care of it. Like when you drive your car and you hear a sound, of course, you don't say, oh, it's going to go on its own. You know, you have to take care of it. And we're glad that we have that opportunity to come and see you. In my practice, I have noticed that if I decrease the level of inflammation in the body, also joints can get regenerated in a way that the pain will not be as severe. And then the more you can exercise, because the pain goes less, the less pain you feel. And so how as an orthopedic surgeon you're trying to decrease the level of inflammation in our patients, are there any foods particularly that you would recommend us to take, or some foods that you would suggest that we need to avoid? How can we help bone health with food?
Okay, now what I have to say may offend somebody, but I don't mean to offend anyone listening today. Again, I'm speaking as someone who has been in Guam a very short time. And what I observe during conversation with my patients and other people on the island is that there's too much consumption of animal products, commonly known as meat, fish, or chickens. All those animal products tend to promote what we call inflammation. That word is somewhat confusing to a lot of people. It's different than an infection. Infection is caused by bacteria or germs or virus, or sometimes fungus. That's different than inflammation. Inflammation means certain food or chemicals or activity can generate a response by the human body trying to limit the damage. And that controlling or limiting mechanism can produce side effects such as swelling, redness, or pain. And in the process, it can also cause physical change to some structures such as bones or cartilage or ligaments, and sometimes tendons. So I'm coming back to this what's causing inflammation, and at least my personal observation, I don't have any data to support what I'm saying, but my careful observation has been that we eat way too much meat on this island. And that's partly because it's difficult to get many food options when we are so far away, and when you're dealing with many different challenges such as pricing and transportation. So I'm sympathetic with some of the choices we make. But I think eating too much animal products is directly related to amount of inflammation that we generate in our human body. Let me give you one other quick example. When I speak with some of my colleagues who see many more patients than I do, tell me that there's a high percentage of people on this island who have a gout. And that should not be that common in any other part of the world, because I've worked in other remote places and less affluent countries, such as a place in Africa or many countries in Asia where we do not have a ready access to animal products. Because I remember when I was a child growing up in Korea, after the Korean War, it was very, very difficult to find the meat. So we all lived on basically vegetables. And back then, inflammation of the joints were rather rare problems. And as country became more affluent and people started eating more meat, then became much more common problem of inflammation, especially affecting the joints. And incidents or cases of gout have increased. And Guam, that's becoming almost a common diagnosis. And I think we need to work on ways to lower that problem. And the way we can do that is avoiding or limiting our meat consumption, which will make a big difference in our inflammation, particularly of joints. And that also contributes to our weight problem, which we talked about earlier. So cutting the meat out completely from our diet will achieve dual purpose of helping us to maintain good, ideal, healthy weight, plus limiting any harmful effect of inflammation.
I'm very pleased that you do not shy away from saying removing it completely, because there is this myth, I would say, that red meat is bad, but chicken and fish, especially in Guam, is really, really good. And some argue that, pork is white meat and it's not a red meat. And so we get into discussions with my patients, but we started having more and more data that shows that actually the white meat is not any better, because it's really rich, especially chicken that everybody loves. It's very rich in arachidonic acid, which is like one of the main culprits for an inflammation. And we don't end up in a better place than we think we are actually doing ourselves a favor. We'll continue a little bit more about bone health. It will be our last session after the break. Please feel free to give us a call and ask Dr. all your orthopedic questions right after the break.
God, through His Son, Jesus Christ, offers us much more than just temporary encouragement. He promises us eternal refreshment. Jesus once met a woman who had every reason to be discouraged. She belonged to a race that was despised, and she had had several husbands who had hurt her in one way or another, and she felt that everyone in town looked down on her. Jesus met her when she was at the well drawing water. She was rarely treated kindly and never with respect, but He treated her differently than anyone had ever treated her before. He started a conversation about water. Then he told her that everyone who drinks this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks the water that I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water, welling up to eternal life. These words of Jesus transformed the woman's life. Do you feel dried up inside your soul? That thirst can't be quenched by anything or anyone in this world. It's a spiritual thirst that only Jesus Christ can fill. This word of eternal refreshment is taken from the booklet Looking Up from IBS.org.
From Joy FM.
And we're back with more Total Health. Give us a call with your medical questions. Number to call in Guam is 472-1111. If you're in the CNMI, the number to call is 323-1113. Or you can text or WhatsApp us at 686-9999. Now back to the program.
All right, this is our last session with Dr. William O., our orthopedic surgeon at the SDA clinic. And I kind of want to compact all the wisdom that we can actually share it within the next, 10 minutes. And so we are having a caller, and that is great. Dr. O., I have one challenge with my patients when they come with different back pains and, joint pains, shoulder pains, and I address their coffee. And they look at me and they said, but wait a bit, I came because of my back pain. You're now telling me about the coffee. The coffee has nothing to do with it. And so I am, this is one of the things when I try to help my patients have better bone health that I first talk about it, because coffee can serve as a diuretic, even though many people can oppose that. And there is a lot of literature supporting coffee. But when it comes about bones, and especially, your spine, where we see a lot of desiccation of the vertebrae of our bones caused because of constant dehydration, living in a constant state of dehydration. That's one of the things I challenge, my patients with. Do I have your support in that, approach of mine?
Yes, I support any effort anybody gives for other people's health and improving the health. I support. Let me add my little bit of experience with issue of caffeine, coffee. Yes, like everything else, we have pluses and minuses, beneficial effect as well as harmful effect. And we as thinking people, if you want to maintain good health, have to always think about what are the benefits and what are the potential harmful effect. So my answer to that is not just what caffeine is doing to us, but also what effect it has on our body. Let me digress a little bit and talk more about the meat and how it affects our bones and joints. Because, yes, red meat has been known for many, many years that it causes inflammation in our human body and contributes to our weight problem. And that has not been disputed any longer. And people have found some way to get around that difficult dilemma by saying that white meat, chicken or pork or fish, might be less harmful. I had a conversation this morning, actually. One of my patients said, what's wrong with eating fish? I heard fish is good for you. And my answer is that, yes, it has some beneficial effect. But not too many of us eat fish just raw. We cook it with a butter or different kind of fat, and we put other ingredients and other substance along with the fish, just like eating chicken. Chicken itself might have a little more benefit than harmful effect, which I disagree, but we can say that. But not too many of us eat chicken raw. So by the time we fry it or bring other things with it, then it can be less than healthy. So same thing applies to coffee. I've noticed over my life as a medical doctor for the 52 years is that when people think of coffee, they connect it with other things like eating Danish, donuts, or bring a lot of cream with the coffee, or in some cases with the smoking, because coffee creates a craving for using tobacco. So when you think about what's connected or associated together, they can be much more harmful than one by itself. So now, if a coffee makes you to be more active, more friendly, more health conscious, then I would say, yes, it may have a more benefit. But I know many people who derive very little good benefit from coffee, but generate more problem with the coffee. So if that's the case, we should avoid that.
Thank you, Dr. O. We are actually having a caller, and the caller would like to ask you directly a question. Okay, Scott.
Half a day, Johnny. You're on the air.
Hi, Johnny.
Hello, Johnny. Are you there? Hello? Hello, Johnny? Hello, Johnny?
Yeah, we can wait for Johnny to
Yeah, we'll wait
reconnect.
for him to answer,
yes,
to
and
connect
we'll
to us.
get him
But
right
his
away.
question is about finger joints.
Finger joints.
Yeah, he didn't express too much about it with me, but
Okay,
he's
we'll
asking.
start talking about finger joints. Johnny, connect with us if we're not addressing the issue correctly. But this is the specialty of Dr. O. And before I saw him, how he was like a big smile on his face because he loves talking about finger joints.
I'm so glad Johnny called in to give us an opportunity to talk about my favorite subject, hands. I had my medical school training at a university called Loma Linda University in California, and I took my specialty training in orthopedic surgery at the University of Tennessee. And afterwards, I went to the University of Virginia to subspecialty training in hand surgery. And for the last 40-some years, I have emphasized my skill development in the area of hand surgery. So that's my special interest area. Now, I don't know what specific question Johnny has, but hands are very important. In my opinion, of course, I'm biased, is the most important part of a human body because without hands, we become totally helpless and dependent on other people. So maintaining a good bone health in the hands is critically important.
I believe we do have Johnny.
Yes, he is. He's back on the line. Let me tap him too. Hello, or get him through. Hey, Johnny, thank you for calling back.
Hey, no problem, man.
So, Johnny, Dr. O is here. He's excited that you're going to ask him something about finger bones, joints health. Go ahead.
Okay, so the situation is I have gout.
You have gout.
Two of my fingers, I'm unable to bend them anymore. It looks like it's like sort of deformed, like the bones are it's like deformed. Am I able to get these two fingers fixed at SDA?
Oh, very good question, Johnny. Yes, before I run out of time, I want to let you know that, yes, that's one of the easier problems. We can help you find a correction or some alleviation of the pain and correcting the deformities. And the way we do that is that we analyze by getting a good x-rays to find out what's causing the deformity. And there are many options besides surgery. We do surgery as a last option, but many ways we can help once we establish the good, correct diagnosis. Now, not all the deformities and the pain and swelling in the finger joints are caused by gout. Actually, gout is somewhat rare cause of the deformities in the fingers. Sometimes we get less than accurate diagnosis. So it is important to start out with a correct diagnosis and then assess the severity of the problem and then discuss the different options. I, as a hand surgeon, believe in giving patients the choice of what kind of a remedy options he or she wants to try. And by doing that, we work together with the patients to achieve the ideal result.
Okay.
Yes,
that helps you.
Johnny, our services are available. We do see patients on a regular basis with those complaints. Feel free to, call the clinic and we will address any issue that you might have, especially because you're calling for your hands, and the hands is the biased part for Dr. O. Not because only he is a surgeon, but because he has been helping many people like you throughout the years of experience. Johnny, do you have another question for Dr. O?
Is there anything I can do on my own to cure this? Or I've got to go?
Yeah, so I know you got to go. One thing you can do right away is don't abuse your hands. Try not to do work or different activities that will make a deformity to get worse or swelling worse.
I see. Okay, doctor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Yes,
calling
very
in,
much
Johnny.
for everything you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. We appreciate your call. We have 3 more minutes, Dr. O. We can talk a lot about health and, our bones and our joints. There is one more thing that I would like to target, and it's, the betel nut use. It does there are studies showing that it increases the risk of osteoporosis. Dr. O, we don't have much time. Tell us about the osteoporosis. Is there a way that we can regenerate our bones? Is there a way that we can even strengthen our bones? And even though we're going through traumas, is there a way for us to recover from those traumas? I'm throwing so many things at you.
Yes, there are many different causes of osteoporosis, but that subject, I believe, is overused. It's much less common than it is advertised to be. And sometimes it is used to discourage us from doing things we need to do to help ourselves. By that, I mean that it's it's not a common condition. Of course, there are certain population who is more at risk, such as ladies over a certain age. Relating to the hormone changes, you're more subject to develop osteoporosis. But again, back to the principle of prevention over the treatment, best way to minimize or prevent osteoporosis is activity, proper activity, and careful activity. By doing that, we can maintain a good bone health.
Dr. O, our bodies are wonderfully made, and I know you agree with that. God has created us in a special way, and He says that He created us in His image. Please share with us, we have like few seconds left, an insight that God has inspired you, when it comes to bone health and taking care of our patients.
Well, one Bible promise, which I keep in mind daily, before and after I see patients, is that there's a promise in the Bible. Jesus invites all of us, invites me and my patients and my co-workers. He said, "Come unto me, all you that labor or work hard and heavy burdened, and I'll give you rest." And I believe we can find the ultimate rest by trusting His power, His grace, and His guidance, and He will give us wisdom to keep our health and prevent premature deterioration and aches and pains.
That's great. Thank you so much for your participation, Dr. O. We appreciate you so very much.
Thank you.
Be sure to check with your doctors before making any sudden life changes discussed today. Total Health is brought to you in partnership with Guam Seventh-day Adventist Clinic, where health is their mission. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. Thank you and Sijuas Maasi for listening to Total Health right here on Joy FM.